Most people believe film school is where boundaries stretch and difficult art is welcomed. But some films push too far even for academia. Behind the curated screenings and structured theories lies a quiet blacklist, a collection of works so disorienting, so resistant to analysis, that educators simply removed them from the conversation. Not censored by authorities, not condemned by audiences, just quietly exiled by the very institutions meant to decode them. These films don't just unsettle viewers. They dismantle the language of criticism itself. Their narratives fracture. Their morality dissolves. Their imagery refuses categorization. Professors found themselves without the vocabulary to explain them, and students were left with reactions too raw for classroom discussion. What we're opening tonight isn't a list of banned movies, it's an autopsy of cinema that academics couldn't control. Some titles twist genre until it collapses, others reject structure altogether. A few ignite debates, so heated that screenings were never repeated. This is the syllabus that never made it to print, the one filled with the films too unstable, too provocative, too inscrutable for the academic lens. If you think horror loses its power under analysis, think again. These films broke the analysis. Let's step past the threshold and explore the titles that film schools tried to forget. 1. Salo, or the 120 Days of Sodom, 1975. When power corrupts absolutely, terror becomes method. Pasolini's adaptation thrusts viewers into a fascist nightmare where domination is ritualized and cruelty is absolute. Every act committed against the imprisoned youths is cold, systematic, and stripped of metaphor. There is no relief, no redemption, only the machinery of authoritarian sadism grinding forward. In academic settings, the film ignited conflict rather than discourse. Ethical conversations turned volatile. Interpretive attempts faltered beneath the film's stark brutality. Students were shaken. Professors found themselves unable to mediate the emotional fallout. Eventually, the film was quietly set aside, not out of censorship, but out of sheer unmanageability. Salo isn't watched, it's endured, and academia was never prepared for what it demands. 2. Subconscious Cruelty, 2000. Here, the mind doesn't unravel, it's torn open. Karim Hussein presents a series of disturbing vignettes. Rituals drenched in blood, bodies fused with nature, violence married to desire, and imagery so raw it bypasses logic entirely. There is no clear storyline, only sensation, only instinct, only provocation. Academic screenings were short-lived. Students recoiled, professors lost footing, discussions attempted to form, then dissolved as fast as they started. The film refuses the safety of interpretation. Every scene pushes deeper into psychological territory, where theory provides no shelter. Sooner or later, educators accepted what the film itself insists on. It is meant to be experienced, not decoded. Some horrors haunt the senses long before the mind finds word. 3. Begotten, 1990. When a film abandons language, it demands something deeper than comprehension. Rendered in stark, corroded black and white imagery, Begotten feels less like a motion picture and more like a sacred text defiled. A godlike figure tears himself apart. Life emerges from violence. Figures drift through barren landscapes as if trapped in a creation myth that has rotted from within. Professors attempting to introduce it quickly realized its resistance to analysis. There is no dialogue to interpret, no traditional structure to map, no emotional cues to guide discussion. Students were left with visceral reactions rather than academic insights. Every attempt to impose theory collapsed beneath the film's merciless ambiguity. In the end, Begotten wasn't excluded because it lacked artistry. It was excluded because its artistry refused to be filtered through the classroom lens. Some works don't communicate, they confront. 4. The Poughkeepsie Tapes, 2007. It feels less like fiction, more like evidence unearthed from a locked room. Presented as a faux documentary, the film compiles interviews, crime scene accounts, and footage allegedly captured by a serial killer. The realism is suffocating. Every shaky frame, every desperate voice, every flicker of VHS grain blurs the line between staged narrative and illicit discovery. Academia avoided it for one reason: reactions couldn't be contained. Students believed it was real. Others were too unsettled to engage in discussion. The film's commitment to authenticity made analytical distance impossible. There was nothing safe to latch onto, no angle that spared the viewer. Professors withdrew it, not because it lacked substance, but because it demanded an emotional price classrooms couldn't afford. Some horrors aren't imagined, they're felt in the pit of your stomach. 5. I Spit on Your Grave, 1990. 1978. Violence leaves marks on the body and on the viewer. Following a harrowing assault, a young woman rises in calculated retaliation. Her revenge is neither triumphant nor cleansing. It is slow, painful, and morally tangled, forcing the audience to confront brutality without the comfort of resolution or commentary. I Spit on Your Grave isn't crafted for entertainment, it's constructed as an ordeal. Film classes couldn't manage it. Ethical debates cracked apart. Feminist readings clashed violently. Some screenings spiraled into emotional fallout, severe enough to end further discussion. Professors soon realized the film did not teach theories, it detonated them. Eventually, it vanished from academic spaces, too volatile for structured inquiry and too emotionally charged to handle safely. Some films don't challenge your mind, they challenge your ability to keep watching. 6. Evil Speak 1981. When desperation meets technology, something ancient answers back. Inside an unforgiving military academy, a lonely cadet discovers an archaic, satanic ritual encoded within primitive computer software. What begins as curiosity becomes invocation, summoned by keystrokes, empowered by rage, and unleashed through the cold glow of early digital screens. Evil Speak merges occult horror with technological dread in ways that defy tonal boundaries. Film schools struggled to place it. Some professors attempted to frame it as a hybrid of tech, anxiety, horror, and revenge fantasy, but the film's wild tonal shifts broke every neat category. Students debated whether it was self-aware camp or an accidental descent into excess. By the time the climactic eruption of gore and demonic interference took over the screen, academic discussion had long collapsed. Evil Speak left classrooms confused, unsettled, and without a framework strong enough to contain it. Some evils don't whisper, they boot up and execute. 7. Things 1989. This isn't a film, it's a disturbance caught on tape. Shot on consumer-grade video with dubbing that feels torn from another dimension, Things presents a surreal descent into incoherence. Demonic births, nonsensical dialogue, flickering lights. It feels like you're watching a corrupted recording of a nightmare someone accidentally taped over a home movie. Experimental cinema instructors made brief attempts to include it, but lectures fell apart. Students couldn't decide if the film was intentionally absurd or disastrously sincere. The line between parody and earnestness dissolved entirely. Eventually, academia backed away. Not out of disdain, but out of helplessness. There was nothing to analyze because the film continually erases the possibility of analysis. Some nightmares don't hide in shadows, they live inside the glitch. 8. House of Whipcord 1974. Authority twists into cruelty when no one is watching. Within the confines of a secluded mansion, a self-appointed moralist runs a makeshift prison for women he deems corrupt. Order becomes tyranny. Discipline becomes brutality. House of Whipcord is drenched in cold austerity, its horror rooted not in the supernatural, but in human righteousness gone feral. Academic interest evaporated quickly. Interpretations collided. Was this a social critique, exploitation wearing commentary as camouflage, or simply a nightmare built from contradictions? No theory held steady. Discussions grew tense, unsettled, unresolved. Professors eventually let the film fade into academic oblivion, not because it lacked meaning, but because it carried too many meanings for any one framework to contain. Some horrors wear uniforms of order, but their hearts beat with chaos. 9. Axum 1992. Some films don't just break convention, they never acknowledge it existed. A group of friends ventures into the woods for a weekend away, but what unfolds feels less like a cohesive movie and more like a disjointed collage of wandering camera angles, uneven audio, and improvised scenes stitched together with raw, unfiltered energy. Axum isn't polished, structured, or even stable. It simply is. When professors tried using it in lectures on independent filmmaking or representation in horror, chaos followed. Students didn't know whether to laugh, critique, or simply ask how this film was made. Traditional academic tools, continuity analysis, tone mapping, narrative arcs evaporated instantly, and that was the problem. The film resisted every attempt at explanation. Its existence challenged the very idea of what a teachable movie should look like. Eventually, educators decided it was better left as a whispered curiosity than a subject of study. Some movies don't seek understanding, they dare you to find any. 10. Night Warning 1982. Love becomes a trap with no key. Billy is a teenager caught in the grip of his aunt's obsessive affection, an affection that mutates into something possessive, delusional, and ultimately deadly. Night Warning grapples with taboo desires, identity confusion, and psychological manipulation in ways that remain unnervingly direct. Film departments tried presenting it as a case study in queer-coded horror or unconventional character dynamics, but lectures derailed quickly. Interpretations clashed, the film's emotional volatility clouded theoretical frameworks, and classrooms became battlegrounds of conflicting readings. With time, the film slipped out of academic view, not from avoidance of its themes, but because no single lens could hold it firmly enough to teach. Some horrors hide in the home, wearing the face of someone who swears they love you. 11. The Being, 1983. The monster is visible. The structure is not. In a polluted Idaho town, residents vanish under mysterious circumstances. A grotesque creature prowls the outskirts, yet the real disorientation comes from the film's jagged editing, misplaced scenes, and abrupt tonal shifts. Coherence is optional. Continuity is a luxury. Film schools quickly discovered they couldn't use it for anything. Narrative charts fell apart. Editing diagrams made no sense. Even discussions on low-budget filmmaking faltered because The Being doesn't represent a style, only an accident of form. Professors eventually agreed on one point. The film couldn't teach anything concrete because it refused to stabilize itself long enough to be analyzed. Some movies break rules. This one pretends rules never existed. 12. Demented, 1980. Her mind doesn't return in one piece, and neither does the narrative. After suffering a violent assault, Linda emerges alive but undone. Her thoughts fracture, her memories clash, and her sense of reality twists into something unstable and unpredictable. Demented doesn't follow a clean revenge arc. It staggers, hesitates, lashes out, then retreats into psychological shadows. Film departments discovered quickly that the movie was impossible to navigate academically. Feminist theory argued over its depiction of trauma. Genre courses couldn't pin down whether it leaned toward exploitation or psychological realism. No analytical framework survived contact with the film's unstable tone. Screenings left classrooms uneasy, not because of shock, but because the film forced emotional reactions instead of intellectual ones. Eventually, educators stopped including it, deciding it wasn't a work that could be neatly unpacked. Some stories don't seek resolution, they leave you lost inside the damage. 13. The Swarm, 1978. The bees aren't the real disaster the film is. Marketed as a grand disaster epic, The Swarm delivers an onslaught of chaotic edits, overcrowded subplots, and performances that feel wildly disconnected from the scenes around them. What should have been a straightforward creature feature becomes an unintentional study in narrative collapse. Educators tried to use the film sparingly, a moment in an editing lecture, a clip in a story structure workshop. But full screenings created more confusion than insight. Discussions drifted into frustration. Students complained that they couldn't locate the film's center or even its rhythm. In time, professors quietly abandoned it. It wasn't horrifying because of the bees, it was horrifying because nothing held together. Sometimes the true terror lies not in the threat on screen, but in the structure unraveling beneath it. 14. Blood and Lace, 1971. In this orphanage, innocence dissolves faster than hope. A teenage girl enters a home for abandoned children where secrets lurk behind every locked door. Authority figures behave like predators. Disappearances are met with silence. The dread grows not through spectacle, but through the quiet cruelty embedded in everyday routines. Film programs attempted to use the film as an example of early exploitation, but it resisted clean classification. Its pacing is uneven, its tone inconsistent, and its themes too tangled to unravel neatly. Students didn't know whether to read it as commentary or as pure pulp. Professors realized that neither route led anywhere productive. Eventually, Blood and Lace drifted off syllabi, not from controversy, but because academia couldn't mold it into something teachable. Some films don't terrify with monsters, they terrify with what they refuse to explain. 15. The Baby, 1973. He isn't a child, he is made into one. In a household ruled by warped affection, a grown man is confined to infancy, kept in a crib, bottle-fed, and treated as if time itself has been forbidden to touch him. The Baby doesn't rely on overt horror, its menace comes from the quiet compliance of everyone involved, and the suffocating atmosphere of a family locked inside delusion. When instructors attempted to bring the film into analytical spaces, they faced immediate resistance. The movie slips away from genre labels and narrative expectations. It doesn't offer commentary so much as it traps viewers inside its twisted dynamic. Discussions turned circular. Theories clashed. No consensus emerged. Eventually, the film became an academic dead end, too ambiguous for structured breakdown, too unsettling for classroom engagement. It didn't fit a category, so it was removed from consideration entirely. Some horrors whisper softly, but the echo lasts far longer than the scream. Bonus pick: Trash Humpers, 2009. Before we close this forbidden syllabus, there is one more reel that refuses to behave. Harmony Korine's Trash Humpers looks like something discovered in a decaying attic, an accidental recording of chaos rather than a crafted film. Figures wearing grotesque, elderly masks roam through empty neighborhoods, laughing in shrill, distorted tones, smashing objects, whispering nonsense, and repeating acts that feel both childlike and monstrous. The footage is raw, smeared with artificial VHS degradation, and edited with the rhythm of a hallucination. The film rejects narrative, character, and meaning so aggressively that it becomes its own form of cinematic vandalism. It's unsettling not because of what happens, but because of how deliberately pointless everything appears. Film schools quickly realized they had no tools to handle it. Experimental cinema classes attempted to discuss it, but lectures unraveled as students struggled to decide whether it was art, prank, critique, or simply provocation for its own sake. Every theoretical approach fell short. Nothing held. The more instructors tried to contextualize the film, the more it slipped through their grasp. It became clear that Trash Humpers couldn't be taught, categorized, or even comfortably screened. It existed outside the academic vocabulary, a rogue artifact crafted to disturb through its very refusal to be understood. Some films ask for interpretation, others dare you to find meaning where none was ever intended. If you've journeyed through these unteachable horrors, you're more than a casual viewer. You're someone willing to explore the corners of cinema that academics turned away from. These films shattered theory, silenced classrooms, and resisted every attempt at structure. If discovering the forgotten, the forbidden, and the films buried beneath academic caution calls to you, consider staying with us. There are more shadows to uncover, and more lost reels waiting to be unearthed.